The morning sun of Alpha Centauri cast rainbow-like reflections through Zixtal's crystalline form as they hurried through the pristine corridors of the Galactic Academy. Their excitement was visible in the rapid color changes rippling through their transparent body, a mix of bright blues and greens that their species used to express anticipation. Today was no ordinary day for the junior xenobiology student. After 3 years of studying theory and watching holovids, they would finally get to observe a real human up close. The assignment had come through last night. Subject: Ashley Cooper, human exchange student, 3rd year engineering. Zixtal had spent the entire night preparing, reading through every basic human biology text available in the Academy's database. They had even practiced using their new quantum scanner, a gift from their parents, for making the honor roll last semester. The device was supposedly capable of analyzing any carbon-based life form down to the cellular level. "You're going to be late," chirped their roommate, Blip-Blop, a gelatinous mass of highly intelligent purple goo, as Zixtal rushed past their shared living space. "Cannot be late. First impression critical for accurate observational data." Zixtal's words came out in the clipped, excited manner common to their species when agitated. Their crystal surface caught the light, sending little rainbow patterns dancing across the walls. The observation was scheduled to take place in the Academy's recreational dome, a massive structure designed to accommodate the environmental needs of every species enrolled. Zixtal found a perfect spot behind a cluster of atmospheric plants, their crystalline form blending seamlessly with the decorative mineral formations. Right on schedule, Ashley Cooper walked in. Zixtal's sensors immediately began recording everything about the human: height, weight, temperature, respiratory rate. The human seemed perfectly normal, settling down on one of the adaptive comfort surfaces with a device Zixtal's database identified as a tablet. "Fascinating," Zixtal muttered, taking notes. "Subject exhibits typical human behaviors. Maintains constant internal temperature despite dome's variable climate zones. Demonstrates regular breathing pattern. Epidermal layer appears." That's when it happened. Ashley, seemingly absorbed in her studies, absently reached up to her nose. And then, to Zixtal's absolute horror, she began to peel something off her face. Zixtal's crystal structure vibrated in shock, creating a high-pitched whine that fortunately only they could hear. Their color shifted rapidly from green to a pale, sickly yellow. The quantum scanner nearly slipped from their suddenly trembling appendages. "No, no, no," they whispered in panic. "This cannot be correct. Humans are not supposed to. Their external layer should not." But it was happening right before their sensors. Ashley Cooper, who had appeared to be a perfectly normal example of her species, was casually removing part of her external protective layer. Even worse, she seemed completely unconcerned about this obviously catastrophic biological event. The final straw came when Ashley, after examining the removed skin, simply flicked it away and continued reading, as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. Zixtal's internal harmony shattered. Their crystal form resonated with pure terror, creating a frequency that caused the nearby windows to vibrate dangerously. 3 of them exploded in quick succession, sending crystalline shards raining down on the surprised occupants of the recreational dome. In the ensuing chaos, as emergency containment fields snapped into place and security drones swarmed the area, Ashley finally looked up from her tablet. She seemed confused by all the commotion, absently reaching up to peel another small flake of skin from her sun-kissed nose. Zixtal's last coherent thought before their emergency shutdown protocol activated was to wonder if all their research had been wrong. Perhaps humans weren't the simple carbon-based life forms everyone thought they were. Perhaps they were something far more terrifying. A species that could voluntarily discard parts of themselves without any apparent distress. The sound of their crystalline body hitting the floor was lost in the general pandemonium. but their finally released scanner had managed to record everything. The device's screen still displayed its last analysis. Warning: subject displaying unprecedented biological anomaly. Voluntary epidermal separation in progress. The Academy's medical response team burst through the quantum-sealed doors of the emergency ward, their protective suits glowing with biocontainment fields. Leading the team was Dr. Squish, a highly respected physician whose amorphous form rippled with professional concern beneath the containment suit. "Status report," Dr. Squish demanded, their voice bubbling through the universal translator. A holographic display materialized, showing the Recreation Dome incident from multiple angles. The footage of Ashley Cooper's casual skin peeling had been marked with urgent warning labels and analytical overlays. Patient 0 appears to be maintaining normal activity despite obvious dermal degradation. One of the junior medics reported, their tentacles trembling as they gestured to where Ashley sat in the quarantine chamber, still focused on her tablet and occasionally scratching her nose. Meanwhile, in the adjacent room, Zixtal had finally rebooted their systems, only to fall into another panic attack. "You don't understand," they shrieked, their crystal form vibrating at a frequency that made the medical equipment give off warning beeps. She was just removing her external protection layer. Like it was nothing. Like it was normal. The medical team exchanged worried glances through their protective visors. Dr. Squish oozed forward cautiously. "Now, Student Zixtal, are you absolutely certain of what you witnessed? Perhaps it was a visual anomaly caused by the recreational dome's atmospheric controls." In response, Zixtal thrust their quantum scanner toward the doctor. The device's screen showed a high-resolution recording of the incident, complete with molecular analysis of the discarded skin particles. The medical team crowded around the scanner, their various appendages and sensory organs expressing growing alarm. The scanner's data was undeniable. A human had indeed voluntarily separated part of their external protective layer. "By the sacred slime," Dr. Squish exclaimed, their form losing cohesion for a moment. "Alert the Xenobiology Department. And someone contact the human embassy, though perhaps we should phrase it delicately. We don't want to cause a diplomatic incident if this is some sort of cultural practice." In the quarantine chamber, Ashley had finally started to pay attention to the growing commotion outside. She watched with increasing bewilderment as more and more alien medical personnel arrived, each more heavily protected than the last. Some were taking readings with elaborate equipment, while others appeared to be setting up some sort of containment field around the entire level. Excuse me," she called out, her voice slightly muffled by the quarantine field. "Is everything okay? I have a quantum mechanics class in 20 minutes. Her words sent another wave of panic through the medical team. "It's speaking. Quick, check for signs of mural degradation," someone shouted. "Could the epidermal separation be affecting higher brain functions?" "I can hear you, you know," Ashley said, rolling her eyes. "And what's this about epidermal separation?" Dr. Squish approached the quarantine field, their protective suit humming with maximum power. "Ms. Cooper, please remain calm. We're here to help. Can you tell us when you first noticed the tendency to shed your external layer?" Ashley stared at them blankly. Then her eyes widened with sudden understanding. She looked down at the small pieces of peeled skin on her desk, then back at the alarmed medical team, and finally at Zixtal, who was still emitting a high-pitched whine of distress. She couldn't help it. She started laughing. This, of course, only made things worse. Emergency. The subject is displaying erratic emotional responses. Someone shouted. Possible hysteria induced by trauma. No, wait. Ashley managed between giggles. "It's just sunburn. It's normal. I fell asleep studying under the triple suns yesterday, and—" But her explanation was cut short by a new alarm. The Academy's Central Medical Eye had just finished processing Zixtal's initial report and had automatically initiated Emergency Protocol 7B, Unknown Biological Hazard Containment. Heavy shutters began descending over every window and door in the medical wing. Through the quarantine field, Ashley could see Dr. Squish rapidly dissolving into a panic puddle, while Zixtal's crystal form had begun emitting all the colors of the rainbow in rapid succession. "Oh boy," Ashley sighed, watching the chaos unfold. "This is going to be fun to explain to my professors." Just as the Academy was beginning to recover from the initial skin peeling incident, spring break arrived. The human students, led by an enthusiastic Ashley Cooper, had organized a beach trip to the famous Triple Sun Resort on Proxima Centauri b. Zixtal, still recovering from their first shock, but determined to continue their research, monitored their departure with a mix of scientific interest and lingering horror. "They're going to deliberately expose themselves to enhanced solar radiation," Zixtal asked their roommate Blip Blop, their crystal form shimmering with concern. "Don't they know that's how the first incident started?" Blip Blop burbled sympathetically, having spent the last week listening to Zixtal's theories about human dermal phenomena. "Maybe they're going to study the effects," the gelatinous being suggested helpfully. 5 days later, Zixtal was in the Academy cafeteria, attempting to consume their daily mineral supplement, when the human students returned. All 20 of them walked in, their skin displaying various shades of red that made Zixtal's sensors go haywire. "Oh man, I'm peeling already," Jake Thompson announced, rolling up his sleeve to reveal a large section of loose skin. "Same here," called out Madison Wright, already working on a substantial peel along her shoulder. "This is going to be a good one." Zixtal's crystal structure began to vibrate at an alarming frequency. Their mineral supplement crystallized instantly in its container as they watched in horror as multiple humans began what could only be described as a mass shedding event. "Emergency! Emergency!" they screamed, their voice cracking with static as they broadcast on all Academy frequencies. Multiple subjects experiencing simultaneous epidermal detachment. "This is not a drill." The cafeteria erupted into chaos. Non-human students began evacuating in various species-specific displays of panic. The gelatinous students merged into a single mass of terrified goo. The anti-gravity species shot straight up to the ceiling, and the psychic species collectively projected an image of running away, while actually staying perfectly still. Meanwhile, the human students, finding the whole situation hilarious, had gathered around one table and were now having what they called a peel-off contest. "Look at this one," cheered Chris Martins, proudly displaying a perfect sheet of skin from his back. "It's all one piece." "Amateur hour," laughed Ashley, who had perfected her technique since the first incident. "Watch this." Zixtal, who had been frantically recording everything with their quantum scanner, witnessed in horror as Ashley proceeded to remove what appeared to be an entire section of skin from her left arm, in one continuous strip. The scanner, overwhelmed by the multiple instances of voluntary epidermal separation, finally gave up and displayed a simple message: "Error 404, logic not found." In their panic, Zixtal had already composed and sent a new report to the Academy board. The human molt, a species-wide striptease. The report, complete with high-resolution images and real-time video feeds, crashed the Academy servers within minutes due to the overwhelming number of download requests from curious and horrified faculty members. Professor Luminox, a being of pure energy teaching xenobiology, attempted to restore order. "Students, please, there must be a rational explanation for this mass shedding event." "There is," Ashley called out, still working on her impressive arm peel. "We all got sunburned because someone Jake forgot to pack the sunscreen." This explanation, when translated through the universal translator, came out as, "We deliberately exposed ourselves to solar radiation to initiate a synchronized molting ritual led by our designated solar priest Jake. The cafeteria's AI, processing this information, immediately initiated the unknown cultural ritual protocol, which involved sealing all exits and beginning a full anthropological documentation process." As the security fields hummed into place, Ashley looked at the increasingly hysterical Zixtal and a room full of panicking alien students, then at her fellow humans who were still cheerfully comparing their peeling progress. "Maybe," she said, trying to keep a straight face, "we should have warned them about spring break." Zixtal, their crystal form now vibrating at a frequency that made all the cafeteria windows rattle ominously, could only watch in growing horror as the humans began taking what they called peel-fies for something called spacegram. The hashtag Galactic molt would trend across the entire academic network for weeks to come. After the beach day incident, the Academy's administration decided that a proper cultural exchange session was needed. They scheduled an emergency assembly in the Grand Lecture Hall, where Ashley Cooper would explain the phenomenon of sunburn to the alien student body. Zixtal, still vibrating with nervous energy, was appointed as the official translator. The lecture hall was packed. Species of all types had gathered, some floating, some oozing, some existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The anti-gravity students had to be tethered down to prevent them from clustering at the ceiling in their excitement. Ashley stood at the podium, armed with a holographic presentation about human skin biology. "Okay, let's start with the basics," she began cheerfully. "When human skin gets too much sun exposure, it burns. Then it peels. It's completely natural." Zixtal's translation matrix processed this statement and broadcasted. When humans wish to initiate the sacred molting ritual, they offer their external layer as a sacrifice to the solar deities. This is an essential part of their species' spiritual practice. The audience gasped collectively. A few psychic species fainted, their bodies remaining upright while their consciousness took a brief holiday to less disturbing mental realms. "No, no," Ashley tried again, pointing to a diagram of human skin cells. "See, these are dead skin cells. They just fall off naturally." The translation matrix chirped, "Behold the cellular suicide pact. Witness how the loyal skin cells willingly march to their doom in a display of collective sacrifice." In the third row, a group of silicon-based students began weeping crystalline tears of sympathy for the brave skin cells. Someone started a prayer circle. Meanwhile, the other human students, unable to contain themselves any longer, had started a live stream of the event. Jake Thompson, still peeling from his sunburn, was doing what he called a reaction video to Zixtal's translations. And then, Ashley continued desperately, "The new skin underneath is already formed, so it's really not a big deal. The humans maintain a secret underground layer of replacement flesh." Zixtal's translation boomed through the hall. "They are constantly growing spare parts beneath their visible surface." The Academy's Xenobiology department, sitting in the front row, was furiously taking notes. Professor Luminox had already started drawing up plans for a new course, Human Dermal Mysteries. The layer below. Madison Wright, seeing an opportunity too good to miss, stood up and solemnly announced, "We also do this thing called exfoliation." The translation matrix nearly short-circuited. They have developed ritualistic scrubbing ceremonies to encourage the skin sacrifice. The humans actively promote the cellular revolution. By this point, the human section of the academic social network had exploded. The hashtag Peel Reveal was trending across 3 star systems, with human students across different academies posting videos of their most impressive sunburn peels. Someone had even set the videos to dramatic orchestra music. The Alien Student Counseling Office reported a record number of appointments. The most common complaint: existential crisis triggered by human dermal impermanence. Ashley, realizing this was a lost cause, decided to try one last time. "Look," she said, rolling up her sleeve to show her peeling arm. "It's really just like when you shed your old." She never finished that sentence because Zixtal, anticipating something truly horrifying in the translation, preemptively activated their emergency shutdown protocol. Their crystal form dropped to the floor with a musical tinkle, creating a perfect A minor chord. The assembly dissolved into chaos. The human students were now taking group peel-fies with the unconscious Zixtal, while various alien species either fled in terror or approached Ashley with religious awe, asking to be initiated into the mysteries of the flesh sacrifice. Professor Luminox, still taking notes, had already published a paper titled "Voluntary Cellular Suicide as a Cultural Practice," a study of human skin rituals. It would later win the galaxy's most prestigious anthropology award, much to the confusion of human scientists. In the midst of the chaos, Madison Wright turned to Ashley and said, "Maybe we should wait a while before telling them about haircuts." Ashley, watching a group of fungoid students starting a prayer circle around a piece of her peeled skin, could only nod in agreement. Some cultural exchanges, she decided, were better taken one crisis at a time. Following the disastrous assembly, Zixtal had retreated to the Academy's Advanced Research Laboratory, determined to understand the true nature of human biology. Their crystal form glowed with intense focus as they surrounded themselves with holoprojections of human anatomical data. "Computer, begin research log entry 47," they announced, their voice still slightly shaky. Subject: advanced analysis of human epidermal behaviors and other disturbing biological processes. Ashley, who had been appointed as Zixtal's research assistant by the Academy Board, mostly to keep an eye on them, sat nearby with a paper bag ready. The bag had become essential equipment after Zixtal's third fainting episode. Today's focus: human grooming rituals. Zixtal continued, pulling up a holographic display of various human personal care items. Subject Ashley has provided examples of. "Oh, by the crystal matrix," they suddenly shrieked, their form flickering in distress. "What now?" Ashley asked, already holding out the paper bag. "This device." Zixtal pointed a trembling crystal appendage at the image of a nail clipper. "You use this to voluntarily sever parts of your external calcium deposits. They're just fingernails, Zix. They grow back." The lab's recording equipment captured the exact moment Zixtal's color shifted from scientific blue to panic yellow. "They grow back?" they whispered in horror. "Computer, update research log. Humans possess regenerative capabilities previously only theoretical in carbon-based life forms." Ashley watched as Zixtal frantically added to their growing collection of what they called human biological anomalies. The wall-sized display now included voluntary nail severance, weekly ritual, hair growth and ceremonial cutting, epidermis self-destruct sequence, sunburn, cellular rejection events, peeling, intentional surface abrasion, exfoliation. "Let's move on to the next item," Zixtal said, attempting to maintain scientific composure. They pulled up an image of a hairbrush, only to immediately drop it with a crystal-cracking screech. "There are dead protein strands in this tool. You collect the fallen soldiers of your follicular army." "It's just hair from brushing," Ashley explained, then immediately regretted it as Zixtal's form began to emit a high-pitched whine. "Computer, emergency log entry." They gasped. Humans deliberately groom their protein filaments using instruments of torture, collecting the casualties for unknown purposes. The research lab's AI, which had been monitoring the session, added its own note. possible connection to ancient Earth rituals of voodoo. Further investigation required. Just then, Madison Wright stopped by the lab, fresh from a spa treatment. "Hey Ashley, check out my new face mask peel." Time seemed to slow as Madison grabbed the edge of the clear mask and pulled, revealing a perfect impression of her face. Zixtal's crystal structure emitted a series of musical notes that sounded suspiciously like the opening of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony before they collapsed into emergency shutdown mode. "Oops," Madison said, looking at the unconscious crystalline form on the floor. "Bad timing." When Zixtal rebooted, they found themselves connected to the lab's primary analysis computer. Their first action was to dictate a new research paper title: Humans, the species that casually violates conservation of mass. "Look," Ashley said gently, helping Zixtal up. "Maybe we should take a break from the physical stuff. We could talk about something else, like human emotions." "Emotions?" Zixtal perked up hopefully. "Yes, perhaps something less physically disturbing would be. For example, we can cry when we're sad, producing tears." "Tears?" Zixtal's voice cracked. "You can voluntarily expel ocular lubricant." Computer, begin new research log. Humans demonstrate controlled leakage of internal fluids as emotional expression. As Zixtal launched into another frenzied research session, Ashley quietly updated the lab's supply request form. Urgent need for more paper bags. Previous supply depleted due to excessive hyperventilation events. Please mark as priority. Meanwhile, the Academy's Comedy Club had started a dramatic reading series of Zixtal's research logs. Their latest entry, "The Horror of Human Haircuts," a scientific analysis of voluntary protein filament amputation, had already become an underground classic. The grand auditorium of the Galactic Academy had never been so full. Students and faculty from every known species packed the space, some even joining via quantum hologram from other star systems. The occasion? Zixtal's highly anticipated presentation. Humans, the species that casually rebuilds itself. Ashley sat in the front row, clutching a stack of paper bags, ready for any crystal-shattering emergencies. Beside her, Madison and Jake had their devices ready to record what they were sure would be the most entertaining academic presentation in galaxy history. Zixtal floated onto the stage, their crystal form polished to perfect transparency for the occasion. They had spent weeks preparing this presentation, determined to help other species understand the mind-bending reality of human biology. "Esteemed colleagues," they began, their voice modulated to project scientific confidence. "Today, we delve into the most terrifying discovery since the Great Gelatinous Uprising of the third millennium." The holographic display activated, showing a time-lapse video of Ashley's sunburned skin peeling. Several anti-gravity species immediately lost their gravitational control and had to be tethered back down from the ceiling. "As you can see," Zixtal continued, their color shifting slightly toward panic yellow before they steadied themselves. "Humans possess the ability to discard and regenerate their external layer at will. But this is merely the beginning of their biological horror show." The next slide showed a close-up of someone cutting their fingernails. A crystalline professor in the third row shattered into temporary fragments, their students quickly gathering the pieces into a collection bag. Notice the casual nature with which they performed this voluntary amputation. Zixtal narrated, their voice only slightly shaky. "And yet, these appendage tits regrow. They simply regrow." A visiting dignitary from the gaseous clouds of Jupiter attempted to request an emergency memory wipe, but was too late. The next slide was already playing, showing a human hair being cut. "Observe." Zixtal's voice cracked with scientific excitement. "They cultivate protein filaments only to systematically harvest them. The average human will grow and cut their head filaments approximately 500 times in their lifespan." The auditorium's medical team was working overtime, treating cases of spontaneous phase shifting among the quantum species and vapor lock among the gaseous beings. Then came the centerpiece of the presentation, a slow-motion, high-definition video of Ashley peeling a large section of sunburned skin from her shoulder, set to the dramatic tones of classical music. Watch in horror as the subject demonstrates complete control over their molecular structure, Zixtal declared, now fully in the grip of scientific fervor. Note the perfect layer separation, the precise removal angle, the new layer already prepared beneath. The video, later titled The Great Unveiling, would become the most viewed scientific footage in Academy history, though it would also be responsible for a record number of therapy sessions among the viewing species. As the presentation reached its climax, Zixtal revealed their most shocking discovery. But colleagues, the true horror is this: they do these things for fun. The word fun appeared in massive holographic letters, causing a wave of gasps, and one rather dramatic explosion from a plasma-based being in the back row. Behold, Zixtal activated a hologram of various human social media posts, all tagged with #PeelReveal. They document their molecular restructuring for entertainment. They compare their cellular shedding for sport. Ashley, watching from the front row, had to admit that Zixtal had really captured the strange horror of human biology from an alien perspective. The presentation was already going viral across the Galactic academic network, with the #HumanCeraMetal trending on multiple planets. As Zixtal concluded their presentation, they unveiled their final slide, a compilation of human transformation videos showing haircuts, nail care, and skincare routines. In conclusion, they announced to the thoroughly traumatized audience, humans are not the simple carbon-based life forms we once thought them to be. They are, in fact, constantly self-reconstructing entities who treat molecular reconstruction as a hobby. The standing ovation that followed was slightly marred by the sound of multiple species fainting, but Zixtal barely noticed. They were too busy adding a postscript to their research notes. Warning: next study topic: human dental hygiene practices may require additional paper bags. Following their viral presentation, Zixtal had been granted exclusive use of the Academy's Advanced Research Laboratory. Their crystal structure still vibrated with nervous energy whenever they reviewed their footage of human biological processes, but something had changed. A new pattern was emerging in their data. Late one night, while analyzing the molecular structure of peeled skin under the lab's quantum microscope, Zixtal made an astounding discovery. Their crystal form began to pulse with brilliant colors, creating a light show that attracted the attention of the night security drones. Ashley. They transmitted the message through the Academy's emergency communication system. Come to the lab immediately. Bring extra paper bags. When Ashley arrived, still in her pajamas and clutching a fresh stack of paper bags, she found Zixtal literally bouncing off the laboratory walls in excitement, their crystal form refracting light in ways that created impromptu disco effects. "Look," they exclaimed, projecting a complex molecular diagram into the air. "Your your ability to shed and regenerate skin cells. It's not just terrifying, it's brilliant." Ashley squinted at the holographic display, which showed a side-by-side comparison of human skin cell regeneration and crystal being repair processes. "What am I looking at, Zix?" "The pattern." Zixtal's voice had reached a pitch that made the lab equipment vibrate. "The way human skin repairs itself layer by layer. It's similar to how we crystal beings heal, but so much more efficient." They brought up another hologram, this one showing the aftermath of a minor crystal fracture. "See, when we're damaged, we have to completely restructure the affected area. But you humans," their voice filled with something close to awe, "you just replace the damaged parts while keeping the rest intact." The lab's AI added its own analysis, comparing human epidermal regeneration to crystal being repair methods. Human process shows 47% greater efficiency and 73% lower energy consumption. Zixtal was now vibrating at a frequency that made them look like a living prism. I've already started adapting the principles of human skin cell regeneration to create a new healing method for crystal beings. Watch this. They deliberately created a small crack in one of their minor appendages. Before Ashley could react, they applied what looked like a glowing patch. The crack began to heal in layers, much like human skin, rather than requiring a complete restructuring of the area. Amazing, right? Zixtal beamed, literally. Their excitement was causing them to give off small bursts of rainbow light. We can use the same principles that allow you to terrifyingly shed your skin to revolutionize our medical technology. News of the breakthrough spread quickly through the academy. By morning, the research lab was crowded with crystal being medical professionals, all eager to learn about what was being called the human method of healing. Professor Luminox, who had initially been skeptical, was now floating around the lab in a state of energized excitement. This could change everything. Though, they added, dimming slightly, the research paper might be difficult for some to read, given the necessary images of human skin peeling. The Academy Board called an emergency meeting to review Zixtal's discovery. The presentation room had to be specially reinforced to handle the combined nervous energy of multiple crystal beings watching slow-motion videos of human skin regeneration. As you can see, Zixtal explained to the board, managing to keep their color steady despite the subject matter. What we originally perceived as a horror, the human ability to casually rebuild themselves, is actually a remarkably sophisticated biological process that we can learn from. Ashley, sitting in the back of the room with her ever-present supply of paper bags, couldn't help but smile. Her friend had come a long way from fainting at the sight of a sunburn peel. Of course, Zixtal added, their color shifting slightly. This doesn't make it any less disturbing to watch. Computer, begin playback of the enhanced microscopic skin shedding footage. The sound of multiple crystal beings hitting their emergency shutdown buttons echoed through the room, but Zixtal barely noticed. They were too busy taking notes on their next research topic, applying human hair growth principles to crystal formation, a study in controlled biological extension. Ashley made a mental note to order more paper bags. Something told her they were going to need them. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Academy sparkled with the combined light of 1,000 different species on graduation day. Holographic decorations floated through the air, while anti-gravity champagne bubbles danced in perfect spheres above the gathered crowd. At the podium, Zixtal's crystal form gleamed with pride, and only a slight hint of nervous yellow. Distinguished faculty, honored guests, fellow graduates, they began, their voice resonating through the hall. When I first started my research into human biology, I was convinced I had discovered the most terrifying species in the galaxy. Gentle laughter rippled through the audience. In the front row, Ashley sat with a single paper bag, more of a good luck charm now than a necessity. Next to her, Madison and Jake were already recording what would undoubtedly become another viral sensation. I mean, just look at them. Zixtal continued, their crystal form shifting to project images of their early research. They casually shed their external layer. They trimmed their protein filaments. Their voice dropped to a dramatic whisper, exfoliate. More laughter, including from the human section. The video of Zixtal's first encounter with Ashley's peeling sunburn played behind them. Now a classic moment in Academy history. But what I initially saw as horror was actually innovation. What I interpreted as chaos was actually adaptation. These humans, with their constantly changing bodies, taught me the most important lesson of my academic career. Sometimes the most frightening things are simply wonders we don't yet understand. The holographic display shifted to show their groundbreaking crystal healing technology, now standard practice across multiple star systems. Professor Luminox, floating near the stage, glowed with pride at their former students' success. Thanks to what we learned from human biology, crystal beam medicine has advanced by centuries. Our healing times have been reduced by 73%. And yes, they added with a shimmer of humor, we did it by copying the very thing that once made me shatter 3 windows in pure terror. In the audience, the maintenance staff nodded appreciatively. They'd finally finished installing the last of the reinforced windows throughout the academy. But perhaps the most valuable thing I learned, Zixtal continued, their color warming to a friendly pink, was that understanding comes through friendship. Ashley Cooper, they gestured to the front row, taught me that what seems alien and frightening at first can become fascinating and beautiful when we take the time to learn about it. Ashley stood up and, with perfect comic timing, peeled a small piece of sunburned skin from her arm. The hall erupted in laughter as Zixtal's color flickered briefly to yellow before steadying again. Though I still maintain, they added dryly, that some warning about spring break would have been appreciated. After the laughter died down, Zixtal's tone became more serious. Our research has been published in every major scientific journal across the galaxy. Our crystal healing technology is being implemented on hundreds of worlds. But the real achievement isn't in the papers or the patents. It's in the bridges we've built between species. They gestured to the diverse crowd before them. Look around this hall. 2 years ago, half of you would have fled in terror at the sight of a human peeling their skin. Now, well, only about 10% of you still flee, and most remember to pick themselves up off the floor afterward. The Academy board members nodded approvingly. The emergency shutdown rate had indeed decreased significantly since Zixtal's first presentation. As we graduate today, they concluded their crystal form glowing with all the colors of the rainbow. Remember this, the galaxy is full of wonders, even if some of those wonders initially make you want to activate your emergency shutdown protocol. The standing ovation that followed was interrupted only briefly when Madison, who had been saving a particularly impressive sunburn peel for this exact moment, decided to give one final demonstration. The resulting chain reaction of fainting crystal beings created a musical symphony that would later be remixed into the galaxy's top dancing track. After the ceremony, as Zixtal and Ashley posed for graduation photos, with Ashley carefully not peeling anything, they discussed their plans for the future. Their consulting firm, Interspecies Biological Desensitization Training, already had a waiting list 3 light years long. Just think, Ashley said with a grin, we haven't even shown them what happens when humans lose their baby teeth. Zixtal's crystal form flickered once, then steadied. They reached for a paper bag, then stopped themselves and laughed instead. They'd come a long way from that first terrified screech in the recreation dome. Though they did make a mental note to stock up on paper bags before starting their dental biology research. After all, some things were still a bit too horrifying to face without a little backup.